Welcome to Project Eternity, and this is the last part of the Eternity 100 members series of presentations. Over here, we're going to talk about the business model of Project Eternity and Eternity 100. So, first of all, it is very important to understand the business model of Project Eternity and, of course, Eternity 100. Both are pretty much synonymous. Many people say, a business model? We have not come here to do business. Well, we could live like the Amishes. Why do we care about generations? We just want a laid back life. Project Eternity doesn't stand for all this at all. But before we talk about the business model, let me clear up a couple of things. This is how children in eco villages look like. Because Eternity 100 members will have to come with their families, including their children. The worst thing in life is to see their children not being able to do better than yourself. Eco communities have certain advantages, but there are certain challenges as well. For example, despite every good thing, living in nature, living in eco communities, sustainable or sustainability, health, and all that, many of these children will never be able to dream you're going to the top colleges or having a great technological education or getting into a good workplace and making some good money and learning new skills. Now, this is completely ruled out. So, if you look at, 10 years down the road when these children become adults, we want to present both these ideas side by side. Mainstream will always have more financial resources and opportunities. Eco communities, on the other hand, will have always very self contained opportunities. Forget about financial resources because they cannot generate money from within. Now, of course, eco communities might have more resilient children, much more emotionally stable children against mainstream, but ultimately the cycle reverses after some time, which means the mainstream children, after 10, 15, maybe 20 years, they're going to look for peace, tranquility, and sustainability. And those in eco communities would say, we're just frustrated. There's no opportunities. We are behind. The world has moved forward so much. Can we even go to a city? So the point is, the battle is sometimes lost. So, for example, if you look at some of the questions that people ask, which is, can we live like the Amishes? Do you really want to live like the Amishes? Like peaceful? There's no peace in Amish communities too. They have a tremendous structure and hierarchical rules where there's hardly any freedom. You want that? That is that is not what Project Eternity stands for. Sorry. Now imagine the possibility that you have come here for a better future for your generations as well, your children as well, and there are no resources. That's the worst thing. So the question is, are we going to look forwards or backwards? We prefer to look forward. So that means we've got to pick and choose our battles, and but we have to win the war. Which is the reason I say most people have no idea about eco communities even if they live there. They have no idea. They must have lived for a couple of days, maybe a week, but they do not know what it takes to run an eco community. So, let's go further. So many people still don't agree. And I've seen that on a continuous basis, which is fine. But let's look at it from a different angle. So we are presenting the truth, not trying to persuade you. Project Eternity, if you really scale it up, it's going to cost about 200 million. So who's going to give that money? Are you going to go down to Project Eternity and start building homes? Really? You have no connections. You don't know the site. Who's going to give you the food? Are you going to start growing your food from day one? So the point is, Thinking that you can just land up on the site and you can start building an eco community is absolute foolishness. Yes, let me repeat that once again. If you think you can do it, you're rather foolish. And more than that, imagine being able to provide no opportunity for the future generations of the world, then why are we even building this? Life is all about opportunities, which is the reason we are doing this presentation to give you a very specific idea of how we're going to build Project Eternity at a high level. The last piece is security and power. Any eco community needs to hold their own power. They have to generate power from within. And you have to be at a very secure and a safe place. You need connections for that. You can't look at the world with rosy glasses. So, the point is this: the biggest reason we are all going to Project Eternity is for freedom. Because happiness depends upon being free. But to be free, one needs to be courageous. Freedom is never given. It is, it is won, which is the reason we cannot choose security and convenience. We have to choose freedom overall and work towards it. And this is possible. Why? Because in the age of Aquarius, remember, intellect, individuality, interdependence, communities, humanitarian things are going to be key. That's what is the age of Aquarius for. And that is the reason it is time to rebuild. If you want to rebuild with crazy ideas, you'll be able to. You have to break down all the previous models and build a new. So let's talk about the business model now. So first of all, we have divided this into a couple of sections. To develop a business model, we need to find out what is the problem we are solving. So let's take a quick look at it. See, the wealthy have a massive challenge. Their success can be very elusive. And because success is elusive, we have seen this again and again. So think about somebody who has made a lot of money, a lot of wealth. Their biggest challenge now is actually keeping it and passing that legacy on for generations, because wealthy people not only pass richness and money and assets, they also pass a lot of values. Why is that? Because they know 70% of the wealth is lost in the second generation and 90% is lost in the third. And they have to struggle again. So the wealthy have the biggest challenge right now. Why? Because their generations are going to go through what is called a generational crisis, and which means it is the crisis time. During the crisis time, which lasts for many, many years, the generations basically are very soft. And that's why when the crisis happens, the wealthy need a system to depend on. And here is why. Because the COVID generation has a lot of fear in them. On the other hand, wealthy people understand business is changing. Technology is transforming generational business. So whether they have a traditional business that has made them money does not matter, because the new generation will have to transform their business to digital, or else it's not going to work. But then the dark side can also be a problem with technology. There are too many distractions and loneliness. And more than that, there is fear. So inside, they are all broken. Outside, they might be intellectual. Many people have held these wealthy families and business families together by bringing these families to gatherings and creating synergies between them. But ultimately, in today's times, when generations are going to go for the crisis and unraveling period right now for the next 15, 20 years, the wealthy people are very concerned. Because now the children are going to look for meaning and they don't find any meaning in life. They just exist day to day. So this cycle repeats. So now let's talk about what Steve Jobs did when he was in Apple. Steve Jobs visited the Himalayan yogis in search of wisdom, in search of himself, in search of meaning. Now, this is fundamental because this entire generation is going to look for meaning at a very early age, at a very young age, because currently they don't find any meaning with what's happening. Now, this is our biggest opportunity to transform generations of wealthy families. Why? Because wealthy families want to pass on wealth to their generations, and they want their children and their children to be the leaders of tomorrow. They know it is a difficult job. But what are they looking for? They are looking for not only transforming themselves. Now the challenges are bigger because now food is going to be manufactured in factories. They'll have no energy, just not even nutrients. And more than that, with digital business facing a lot of challenges to scale, they've got these three problems, which means the transformation of the soul and their mind and their hearts, transformation of the body, and transformation of their business. That is the reason the Project Eternity model is going to work. Why? Because we are focused on a spiritual regeneration. Instead of transhumanism, we bring people just the opposite way. So now let's take a look at it. Our model, as I said, is to give generations a different worldview, to build a character, bring families and communities together, bring consciousness, spirituality at the center for whatever they do, and give them meaning, give them a mission. We are catching them young and then growing them. This is the biggest opportunity. Now, why is that? Why does this opportunity exist? Because the current generation, they might be a technology generation, but they're pretty conscious. They understand health, they understand the challenges with climate change, they understand pollution. They're humanitarian too. The problem is they are not directed in the right direction. It is our duty to do that. And that's what the wealthy love. They're also not interested in the religious books. They're not interested in the fights between, different religions. It just doesn't make sense. They don't give a damn. They want spirituality to be explained the way they want to, not the mumbo jumbo of false spirituality and false leaders that have entirely flooded humanity. They are looking for a blend of East and West called spiritual physics. They don't want dichotomy. They don't believe that dichotomy is going to work, which is the current, stage of the world. And of course, they're intellectual and humanitarian. If we can combine our principles of Project Eternity and align it in this direction, we can create a system. And this system is what the wealthy would love. Why? Because we create a system for their progeny, even when they are gone. And that matters a lot. And that is our business opportunity because the wealthy understand all this. They are not fools. They understand what's going on. They also understand transhumanism and the reset that is being planned. So they are themselves shit scared too, because they can see the demise of their own generations and progeny. This is the opportunity for us to bring the value of Project Eternity to them. Eternity 100 members build the future of living. That is what we intend to do. And we deliver this to our customers, which is nothing but the system that the wealthy would love. So, what kind of wealthy people are we looking for? Are we looking for the Bill Gates of the world? No, not really. We are looking for a section of society who have wealth, who have typically been generationally wealthy, who have values, or startup companies who have made tons of money, but or celebrities who have made a ton of money, but they just they just don't know what their next phase of life is. They are lonely, they have been focusing outside, and they have no idea that happiness comes from within. This is where Project Eternity members answer that quest. Why? Because we have something that they don't have, which is the future of living, the live, work, play, transform model. Mysticism, spiritual physics, quantum consciousness. So, what we do is we give them that system to transform them and the generations to come. Now, how does that happen? You can see it's the yin and the yang. They have a force, we have a force. This force works together to create harmony. And when we transform the others, they go, when we transform them, they go and transform others. That means if we can change the CEO of a company, the CEO of a company goes and transforms his employees. That's what we stand for. We transform leaders, they transform people. That's our agenda, that's our opportunity. So now you might be thinking, will this model work? Well, we don't know. We can only work this if we are in alignment. I believe you can have anything in life with just one principle. That is, you can have everything in life if you will just help enough other people get what they want. So if you want something for yourself, balance it with the energy to help what others want. This is the reason the world doesn't change, because we seek change in the world, but most people do not want to work for it. Imagine the possibility if one person could help just one more person to transform, then the world would have changed. I think there's a saying which says, if everybody cleaned their part of the street, the whole world would be clean. That is the fundamental problem, and the problem is the lack of spiritual consciousness in people. Now, it'll work because both sides also want the best for the generations. Wealthy families want best for their generations. They need a system. Eternity 100 members also want best for their generation and more opportunities. And they deliver it to the people who want it. The yin and the yang balances itself. We are aligned, and that's our model. So, how do we make it work? So, this is the way we want to make it work. So, first of all, you have to understand this is the fundamental piece. The cycle is going to repeat. The only problem is that this transformation by these yogis have never been democratized. Now, why is that? Because the yogis will never give you anything if you don't ask for it. The realization to transform has to come from within. Now, business leaders also need non traditional ways of transformation. Business and work is close to their heart. So we have to bring living, working, innovating, and transformation at one place so it aligns and there is balance. Just going 7 days to a spiritual center is not transformation. You've got to stay there for a long time or for a substantial, not a substantial amount of time, but for a month, maybe a couple of weeks. And this is what we need to bring on a continuous basis to business leaders. This is where the money is going to come. This is where the power is going to come from. This is where our resources would come, our connections. Our... So, long story short, this is the only slide you need to understand that we got to take what we have at Project Eternity and take it to business leaders, corporate leaders, world leaders, government, generations after generations. And we repeat it, and repeat it. So, it's simple. Now, for Eternity 100 members who kind of want to get a little bit of a glimpse of building Project Eternity, here's a couple of other things. Now, first step is when you arrive here, we have not built anything, but we have got all the facilities which are ready to go. The transformation program is ready. The cottages are ready. The villagers are ready. The food is ready. Everything is ready. Yes, it is. So the step one basically is when you arrive, take some rest and have some fun. But after that, the transformation process starts. Because you can never transform others if you don't transform yourself. And you'll be amazed when you meet wealthy people, they're extremely spiritual people. Now, spiritual doesn't mean going to temples and speaking mumbo jumbo and smart ass stuff. This is something that they mean because they have built it in the right way, or else they wouldn't have been successful. We've got to transform ourselves, our inner selves, our outside, and build a purpose and also heal our bodies. Then starts the building. So for example, everybody has their own job. We'll talk about that. And we start building. Some people would focus on building homes. Some people would focus on health technologies. Somebody would be focusing on agricultural technologies. The point is, now we find out how we need to align our skills and cooperate and work together. And this is where we have to go through deep meditation and mystical power. Why? Because collaboration and cooperation is not easy. You can only collaborate with everybody when you have a similar purpose and with consciousness at the core. The result of this is building and innovating the future of living. The future of living model is how we operate as Eternity 100 members and we build Project Eternity, where families, children, villagers, everybody work together to create an experience the world has never seen but once. So everything we do is based on the ancient science that we will learn over there. So this is the hub and spoke model, where everybody is equal with spirituality consciousness at the center and the different skills and individualism at the periphery and at the spokes. This is basically nothing but the Dharma wheel. And the ancients have spoken, we just want to take these and apply it in the modern way. So for those who want to really understand what we would be doing over there, so we take the same Dharma wheel and we divide the core with spirituality at the center, of course, surrounded by people, process, technology, and design thinking. When it comes to people, we're going to find Eternity members who are extremely good with ecosystem modeling, and collaboration. They are the ones who are going to design and build the future of living. Similarly, there might be other people who are good at process and innovation. They would be just focusing on health, medicine, devices, and healing methods, etc. Why? Because that's our strength. Eternity has 1700 herbs that is a solution to nearly all health problems. As the world moves towards transhumanism, we move the natural way, which is much more powerful. Similarly, there are going to be a ton of technologists. As the world moves towards the digital, crypto, NFT, metaverse, and other technologies, we focus on Industry 4.0, but we bring companies who have a massive problem of scaling. So that way, they can apply the technologies at our place and scale, and they get a reference. This way, people, business leaders can bring their business, they live, they work, they transform, they innovate, they solve problems, and they even get a reference. So there are future of living members who are going to focus on technology and helping these businesses apply their technologies to Project Eternity. The last part is to have people who understand change, who understand how to create the different programs to create an amazing experience. Now, that's a different class of people. And now you can see Project Eternity and Eternity 100 members are so tightly woven. They are the people who bring everything together. They are the leaders of the future, which means as they evolve from all angles and we work towards building Project Eternity, we create a symbiosis between the leaders of the world, the families, and the visionaries. And that's how we get all the support we need. We help them get what they want, we get what we want, and we build our future and we transform them to build a conscious future. So, the step three is what's in it for Project Eternity members. We'll cover that on a separate video. Their job is to create the future of living template for themselves and their own generations. Second point is they hold power. Now, power, most people like look at power and say, oh my God, it's so bad. There are many people who think like money is extremely bad. Please leave these before you come to Project Eternity or even write to us. We need resources for our own good. If you cannot provide resources, then we have to get the resources. So that means we are looking for those who can be leaders and build connections so you can hold power. Power is everything. But you don't have to have bad agendas. You can have an entirely humanitarian and human first agenda. There is nothing bad in holding power, and that's what our job is. And with that comes responsibility and the passion that we have to make better generations, create a better world, better everything. So that when we die, we can say we did something worthwhile for our own children and for the world because our model is built on real power. It is a power that we keep, which is neutral and it is uncorrupted. If we can do this, we need to do this by getting out of mainstream. You cannot do this in mainstream. So you've got to make a choice. You can either stay mainstream and be in the old world and keep doing what you're doing. The life of our children or your children won't change. But if we move on, move out from mainstream and build Project Eternity, it's going to be a struggle for some time. But we have the right things in place. We can do it. But for the time being, as I said, let's focus on getting to Project Eternity so that we can experience peace and transformation when the world will be in chaos. If you want to reach out to us, please do at connect@eternity.eco.